Hi everyone, you here in person and you out on Facebook land. Thank you for joining us here today at the Beaufort Digital Corridor. Today we have the pleasure of having a guest speaker with us, but before we do, a little housekeeping. One, we have our new August events calendar out. If you've never been to one of our events, obviously you here have. Anyone online who hasn't been to our events, please check out beaufortdigital.com/events. This calendar will be live on our page by the end of the day. You'll be able to download a PDF version or just look at our events online. Couple big things we have coming up. We have a summer code camp running July 31st through August 4th, and then again a fall break code camp for kids, middle schoolers, August 14th through the 18th. So 2 chances for your kids to learn Python 101 and 102 is what we're training. And then we have what we call BDC week that happens usually around the 3rd Thursday of every month. We have a full week of programs that are available for the public to attend. We just ask for donation-based tickets if you're not a member. The events are free. If you're not a member, we just ask for a small donation, whatever you can afford. If that's free, that's what you can afford, that's fine too. We just want to make sure everyone has access to the programs. And then we also have our annual fundraiser, Run Forest Run 5K, coming up the first Saturday, October 7th. And this is a really fun event. You get a chance to dress up in costumes, run a 5K, walk your dog in the 5K if you prefer. And it's fun for the whole family. We're accepting sponsors right now, so if you're interested, this will also be online and available to download by the end of the day at beaufortdigital.com. So without any further ado, we'll be talking today about models and AI and business transportation, and I'd like you to give a round of applause to welcome our guest speaker, Chuck Livecchi.
Awesome, I come up here, it's like when I get home and my dog's all excited, I was like, that really felt like a welcome, thank you. So yeah, my name is Chuck Livecchi, and I'm just really grateful to be able to come here and speak. I enjoyed kind of just these kind of conversations. And today we're going to be talking about models, right? And what I mean by a model and what I'm ultimately going to be trying to focus us toward in the end is a mindset, right? And it's one of the reasons we begin with the mind and your brain. And if you've ever done any kind of like little studying around it, you understand that like even our brain works by models, right? It creates concepts and links them together, and it just creates life beyond that. So, but before I begin, my goal for today is to really make this conversational. And you'll see as I go through the presentation, because I let AI develop most of it, it's already a whole bunch of text. So I really just like to start off by saying, like, what do you know about AI? And why'd you can't come out today? So Chris, can I ask, like, yeah, what'd you come out for today?
A lot of public fear.
What's that?
Are you asking about AI?
Yeah, just whatever, what are your thoughts on it?
A lot of public fear.
A lot of public fear. Very fair. Very fair. What are your thoughts? Anybody?
I just came to learn some more information since AI is very newly introduced, like especially me, as far as like with writing and also with images. I just wanted to get as much information as I could about it, so I'm using it the best way I can.
Excellent. Excellent. Did you have some thoughts?
Just trying to figure out ways we can use it. I do think we've like looked at it just for some punching up of different copy, that kind of thing. Interested in looking at it for putting together presentations, lead generation. Also, we're in like the real estate financing part of the industry, and there's been some discussion. There's not really any rules or regulation that we have going on right now, but I know that there's some things in discussion, particularly in concern about using private information.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing that. We're just looking for more, I guess, marketing into internet marketing.
And anybody else have thoughts?
Like you, this is the kind of conversations that I love to be a part of. In a perfect world, to be immersed around this kind of topic and conversation all the time. So it's nice to be able to inject into a situation like this, which is great. And very interested in learning how to harness and leverage AI for business and just endless elements of progress in life and business. So.
Excellent.
I'm really curious about the disconnect between users like myself who go onto ChatGPT or Bard and watch YouTubes and they say, well, it's all about the prompts. You have to ask the right questions to get the right output. And then reading articles about AI is redesigning medical everything and flying to space. And so my ability to learn how to use it is like below the carpet level. And it feels like there are people using AI at the moon or beyond level.
Absolutely.
And I have no idea how you bridge
Quite literally.
the gap.
Right, quite literally, and out there. I'm sure that like a lot of the spacecraft and everything else are reliant on AI for a number of reasons. And AI has been around a lot longer than most of us think about it. And even all ChatGPT is, at the heart, it's just autocomplete, right? And that's kind of the interesting piece. We've all been using AI for years. Every time we went in and started looking for something on Google, and oh yeah, you're going to tell me what I'm looking for here. Yeah, it's some interesting pieces. Did you have a thought that you wanted? Or no? Okay.
Not that I know.
Okay. So one of the things I want to say is like, there's really huge reason for fear, right? And I say that like jokingly, but it's true. And most of that becomes because we don't understand it. Like, how are people how are they finding new drugs? And I'm still figuring out like, create a poem. Ooh, it did it. Create a poem about trees. Create a poem, right? And it's like we're all still playing with it. And then I heard you talk about earlier about the design or the art side of it. That's more of my wife's world, right? Where it's like, create this whimsical fairy dust, and it comes out, and it's like, now I can also take that and create a script behind it and move it into another piece of AI, and I can create movies behind this. And how are we doing that? And when did this come to pass? And for most of us, it's come to pass in the past, 6 months? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like, where did this come from? Now, it's been around for a while. It just wasn't so, here it is, available, go figure it out. And a little bit of background about myself. I started out as a computer programmer in the United States Air Force. And so I was telling you, and it's true, I was on the internet before there was a Yahoo and Google, which is really fun, right? And when we were doing this, but there's no Yahoo and Google, we created these IP sniffers to try to figure out what existed on the internet. And anybody would like to take a guess at the two biggest things you could find back then? What? Porn and academia, right? The people who were trying to understand what all of this technology is and how they can use it, and as it's really just getting going, they're putting it out there, and wait, we can, so they're working on it. And then the other side, unfortunately, like one of those industries that's been with mankind for as long as we can go, and that we know, like it's followed us, and that's really what technology does. It really just kind of takes what mankind does and figures out how do we use it to continue doing more of what we're already doing, and hopefully make things a little bit better. Some of the fear. What about our jobs? Right? I mean, if we start to really think about this. So I can tell you right now, actually get going here, I work for a company called Disparity. We provide HR resources. That's my day job, if you will. And I look at what we provide and our major, hey, this is what makes us different. And I'm saying, give me a year with all the content we have available, I could probably replace 70% of our workforce. Right? And not for anything, I'm sure every one of us likes to send off an email and get an answer, right, from a human. But if instead I could just pull up a chat bot, ask my question, and get it answered accurately, there's the big one, accurately, right? Because AI is not always accurate because it's modeled. Let's just kind of jump in for a little bit and kind of see where all of this goes, because I have no idea where this is going, because frankly I just asked AI to write this and I just started reading it last night and I was like, this doesn't make any sense, but we're going to go with it. Okay, I'm getting a little bit of getting inside of there, but our objective today is to understand the concept of models. And that's really what I want to think of, is what is a model when we go through that, and then explore how large language models will transform business models. So I think this is what I would like. First off, is before we even talk about what anything is, we have to understand what we're talking about, right? And a model is basically exactly what we think. It's a representation of a thing. It doesn't have every single detail into it, right? If we wanted to build a new building, we may have a model of that building, and it may go ahead and put some, we want some landscaping around here, we put some trees so people can start to visualize what it might be like. And I mean, there might even be, you could look in a window and maybe see an office, but we're certainly not going to furnish the model completely, right? We're going to, it's a model. It kind of lets us consider how things might be and then pull them together. Just hold on to that as we go through this because it gets a little bit more weird. But this is where I wanted to start today. This is just from the other day. I loved this. I was like, we need to start here. Let's see if I can get this in playing so you can hear it.
Yeah, who's this?
Hey James, it's Alexander from Tesla Motors. How's your date? Going so far.
It's going pretty good, my man. How about yourself? And you said from Tesla, right? The car company?
Yeah, that's right. I'm calling from Tesla Motors, the car company. Did you have any trouble or questions while customizing your car on our website?
No, we're just kind of shopping around and, just taking a look.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Sometimes we're just exploring our options before making a decision, and I totally respect that. Can I ask you why you were looking into a Tesla in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I've had my car for way too long now, and so I'm kind of taking a look at options, and I have a lot of friends who just absolutely rave about Tesla. You know, me myself, I'm actually a big fan of Elon Musk, so I figured I might as well take a look and kind of explore my options there and see what you guys have available.
That's a smart approach, James. It's always good to explore your options and see what's available. Out of curiosity, what do you currently drive?
Yeah, I drive it's an old Ford Fusion, my man.
Nice, a Ford Fusion. Why are you looking to switch things up and consider a Tesla?
Yeah, I mean, I've had that car since literally since I got my first job years back. And it was just time for a change. So it's like, it's not super reliable anymore, and it's time for an upgrade. I'm moving into the city now, and I just think it's time. When I get the new apartment, might as well get the new car at the same time,
I totally get that, James. Moving to a new apartment is a great opportunity to make some fresh changes, including getting a new car. Are you looking at purchasing any other cars at the moment, or are your eyes just set on Tesla?
I'm still looking around, but mainly Tesla. I have a lot of friends who, obviously have them, and I'm a little bit jealous. I have to say, when I, test drive them, they're super fast. Obviously, they look really, really amazing. So mainly looking at Teslas and just kind of trying to figure out which is the right one, and before making a decision on which one to go with.
Well, let's change that as soon as possible then. It looks like you're in Omaha, Nebraska. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Great. What if I do this for you? What if I schedule a time for you to come into a dealership near you to give a Tesla an official test spin, and you can see if this is the car that makes sense for you? Is that something you would be down for?
Absolutely, that would be amazing.
All right, let's close out and say, what do you guys think of James? I mean,
I'd rather hire him than most people. And I think there's a lot of consumers would rather interact with that, eventually even more superior AI than that. They have the models of not just the technical understanding about the car, they have the models of persuasive selling tactics, they have the knowledge of people skills, human skills, how to make someone like them. I mean, in most cases, they're going to be superior to an average employee. And I think a lot of consumers, there's a likelihood that a lot of consumers would rather interact because it's so ideal.
anybody know what the primary objection to James is right now?
Is it his tone? He's very monotone.
He can do all sorts of tones. He can do all sorts of voices.
The pause.
It's the pause.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The 500 millisecond pause. Which, by the way, they're working on. Right, so I mean, that's what's interesting, right? Because we as humans, we're fearfully and wonderfully made. As I'm speaking, you're processing, you're hearing, right? Now, we as humans, we also have this horrible kind of thing, and I'll use my wife as an example. So what do you think of this?
I think it's pretty.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's really good. Right? We do that too often. Right? We also don't listen so well anymore. We listen to respond. As a salesperson, what I want to hear is, there's my hook. I got it. Set it and pull it in, rig it, and I've got you sold. And I'm waiting for you to take a breath so that I can sell you my product. Which is not a good sales skill
Yeah,
at
I
all.
was just about to say the best salespeople don't do that.
Don't do that at all.
Yeah.
Never be selling.
They used to.
I'm sorry, always be closing is done. It's gone 30 years ago, but guess what? We have a whole sales field going, go close it. Why? Because Wall Street wants its numbers every 3 months, and it's going to get its numbers. Right? That's why we want to always be closing. But really what we always want to be doing is building. We always want to be building relationships. We always want to be building trust, and we do that by listening. So what's very interesting to me about the 500 millisecond delay, which is the biggest objection around this right now, is because we've created a society where we will not actually pause and consider what was just said before we respond. AI is currently doing a better job listening, hearing, and responding than humans are, and we hate it. Because what I want to say needs to get said quicker, better, faster. Anyways, I share this because you mentioned business development, right? Getting some leads. I mean, when you hear this, right, in my head I think, where's my Salesforce sequence, right? I'm going to build my 32 outreaches by connecting with you on LinkedIn, and then I'm going to go ahead and connect with you over on, send you an email, and then I'm going to put a phone call. Well, I'm not going to put a phone call. I'm actually just going to go ahead and record my voice saying a few things and let AI synthesize into it so that it sounds like me from the front of the room, and you will never know it wasn't, except AI wouldn't do what I just did. It doesn't just randomly do things.
Unless you program it to be right.
Unless you program it to be random. Always 2 steps ahead, aren't you, Jess? Right? But those are those types of things. Like, we literally can get to the point, and I was going to share a video that my wife shared yesterday, but it's so scary, fearful. I explained the video. There's a mother, father, older, sitting in a movie theater with a bunch of other people, and an advertisement comes on, and the advertisement is their daughter talking to them. Older. Mom, Dad, I know you love sharing those videos and those pictures of me online, but you don't understand. That's going to be used against me. I'm going to be accused and judged and found guilty of crimes I never would commit, because technology is making me something that I'm not, and it starts aging her and showing her, and it takes her voice and makes it older, and then it has her call her mother going, Mom, I need money now, will you please send it, I need help. This is the world that we're coming into. This is the scary world that we're coming into, that we have to be fully aware of, fully open to, and realize we're not stopping it. I mentioned that I started out in the Air Force, and I say that because back then, before there was Yahoo and Google, right, we had our Alta Vistas, we had our Netscapes, like, where are they? All right, they're gone. We've got Google Chrome now kind of building everything up, and realistically, that, like, we're saying around 1995, so roughly, 28 years ago? When the internet became a thing. And I say it, that it became a thing to the degree that one of the guys I met in the Air Force, we met in Alabama, We actually happened to be from the same general place up in New York. We had never met, but we stayed together and we built a template website system. If you think about a Wix today, we built one of those. We're like, this is going to be awesome. We could not get a single investor. We could barely get people to buy. Because when we went and talked to the business owners, why would I need a website? What? What do you mean, why would you need a website? Fast forward to 2000, pets.com explodes, everybody, all the money goes in, right? And it's like, okay, this is the world we live in. Of course, Amazon fooled everybody thinking they were a book company, right? Like, hey, this is how you come to market. Like, this is how you use new technology to create infrastructures and disrupt entire industries and markets and do all of this thing. You tell them you're selling books to prove your model. To prove that when somebody wants a book, you can get it from there to here cheaper than they can do it via retail and even keep a little bit more money. Right? So that's kind of really where things went. So we're about 20 years in to this society that we live in today that commands our attention constantly. How quickly do you think it's going to change this time? Faster. Much faster. I can't predict, but part of me thinks 5 to 7 years from now, we won't even recognize what we're talking about today. Right? And I say that in part because this is not just new technologies. This is new money, right? With Bitcoin and all of these blockchains, and we're going to have more secure transactions, and we do micro transactions. You know, like what we can't do really well right now is charge a penny to read my article. Right? Can't charge a penny, because good luck actually getting a penny from Susie over in California to Chuck over in New York, even though my servers are right in the middle of the country. Like, come on, there's got to be a way to get a penny to me. Like, no, it's too expensive to transfer money. What do you mean it's too expensive to transfer money? Well, my banking background, that's like, if I can share anything, is after I got out of the Air Force, and I went into the banking world and kind of lived through finance and started realizing, like, A, how broken our financial system is, and B, just how, like, it's not able to support what we're trying to do today. Today, though, every technology we need that we have found out that the HTTP internet just simply wasn't enough over the last 20 years, now exists in front of us and will transform everything in the next 3 to 5 years.
All at the same time.
All at the same time.
Man, dude, it is getting me hyped up. It is so refreshing to be in a room with somebody who has the foresight to see that. People think you're crazy until they realize you're not crazy.
Foresight or fear? Because I'm just kind of running away from, like, I can't tell. If I'm being honest, I literally today sit here and think, like, maybe it's time to pull the plug and just plant a garden.
Sure.
Right? I mean, there is that part of me. It's like, I clearly see. I have 3 adult children. My oldest is 31, 32, should be 32 this year. Our youngest is 22. Our youngest never knew a life without the internet. The harm that's been inflicted on her through our technology is massive. And we don't think about it, but our brains, how great we are, what we think we are, evolution, parenting, culturally, who we are as a people, was not ready for what just happened over the last 20 years. We had no idea that people over in Silicon Valley were actually writing programs to make sure that you had more dopamine being flushed into your brain on a regular basis with notifications. That's what it was, right? I mean, that's what marketing is. Marketing is, how do I get the models in your brain to fire when I want them to fire? And that's exactly what notifications are. And that's why we see 4-second clips. That's why we have jokes now that humans have less attention span than a goldfish, which unfortunately has become true. not at all true 100 years ago. So the health of humanity has actually suffered, and we're just now starting to understand what that even means. And the tearing apart of culture and all of these other things that we rely on. I mean, you know, like for humans to be healthy, we have to have healthy communities. And today, we barely talk to our neighbors. Right?
In America.
In America. Very good point, right? A lot of our neighbors now are sort of on Facebook or something. But anyway, so let's just kind of jump in here. So what is a model? We talked about this. Models are simplified abstractions of complex systems or ideas. They assist in understanding, analyzing, predicting behaviors while leaving out unnecessary details. Models are vital tools that aid in decision-making across diverse sectors. Again, keep in mind at all times, your brain processes like a model. So that's what we're talking about here. So maps, as an example. Maps are models, right? If I want to know how to get from here to, somewhere over here or over here, I can plot it, right? I get a general idea of how to get there. I see that it might even be possible, if I wanted to build a business and have some cargo shipped in this town. I don't see any dogs, but I should be aware that maybe a dog exists, but we don't have to do that for our model. But maps are models. And it's probably the easiest thing. And by the way, as I said, AI generated this. I wanted them to try to, I said, give us something that is something we can understand that explains what a model is. So all the stuff that I'm reading here is all AI generated, by the way. Just for today's class, to have a little more fun with it. The large language models. Now this is what we're talking about with AI. A large language model, we'll read it, just those. Large language models are advanced AI systems trained to understand human-like language. They analyze vast amounts of data to understand natural language and improve engagement with customers. Like, we're always thinking about the customers. Even AI is trying to make sure that we're using this for business right now, isn't it, right? But we are. So these models have the potential to streamline business models in various sectors, particularly customer service. Like, everybody first goes to customer service. I'm telling you, like, I have to question, like, why do I need an attorney? I mean, there is a company right now that's actually willing to pay anybody, I can't remember, it's in a civil case, they will pay for the right to defend a case. They'll pay $1 million for the right to defend it, allowing AI to defend it only. Having the attorney sit back and watch AI defend it. Well, why not? Law is just a bunch of language, right? It's structured language. It's important that the order and the stuff that it goes in, but that's all a large language model is. It takes, just imagine a law library, right? It takes all of those words and all of those books, and it doesn't, and this is where it gets really interesting, it doesn't take a word and then another word and then another word. It actually takes 4 to 5 characters. So a space could be in there, periods could be in there, another 4 to 5 characters. It assigns it a numeric value, and based on calculation starts to figure out what is alike and what is not alike. It doesn't actually rely on language, it relies on tokens. Tokens of bits of data to create likeness, right? So what do I mean by that is if I could sit there and say, like, dog, we all go, we know what a dog is. But if I were to say king, we could sit there and think, like, king is a little bit different. But if I use king and dog in proximity of context, maybe the name of the dog is king, right? And we could begin going down that because that's sort of like a story being told suddenly, and that would be the differentiator to the large language model is, well, dogs are not kings based on all the historical references that we have, but every time they're talking about this king, the only thing we really know is that there's a dog that greets somebody as soon as they come home, but they're referring to it as king. Right? And these are, again, king doesn't mean dog. King, because it was in the context and the mathematical approximation, it's saying, hey, maybe king is a dog. So these things get a little bit way out there. All right? So we just kind of went through the maps and models. Now, business models. Everybody generally familiar with what a business model is? basically the idea of how we're going to make money, who we're going to serve, like the important activities that we have to do, right? That's the model that we're going to put together. We're going to look at the market. We're going to say, who can we serve? Who wants to talk to us and why? What kind of value can I bring to them? And this is really interesting when we start thinking of terms of how micro niche we can get with technologies that literally spend the entire day looking for a way to be more interesting to you and more interesting to you differently. And I'll just go ahead and code backward to present you with the product that's effectively the same product to you, but it'll actually appear differently. I mean, so we actually have to start changing the way we even think about products. Now, oftentimes we think about products in terms of, we're doing cars off an assembly line. Okay, if it might be easier just for us to think in terms of digital products, right? Like, a bunch of us like to play games on our phones. Tons of games, tons of great games. There are games that appeal to certain sort of left brain, right brain people, and there's games that appeal to, there's an entire spectrum in between that you could create games that become super unique and hyper personalized and sort of scary, right? And those games can be generated. They don't have to have humans touching them anymore and programming them. So it's really kind of wild. So one of the things that we need to think about is the business models. The business model is a framework and strategy that guides how a company creates value, delivers products, services, and generates value. A business model provides the blueprint for decision making, resource allocation, and serving as a foundation for the overall business planning. I think that this is what we need to really look at, is how we think of the blueprint of business. For so long, we've thought in terms of, I'm going to provide this service because you need this service. Well, how long is it going to be till that service is no longer needed to be, that a human needs to perform it? How long before robots are building robots to create customized vehicles? Let's start there. How long before robots are building robots? I don't know, a couple of years ago. That's already happening. Right? Anybody heard the story about when Google was first starting to figure out if AI could work? It was basically they set up these robotic arms and in a room, and these could reach down and pick up a ball, and there was all sorts of different colored balls that were in there. And they never told the machine its exact job. But it told the machine basically, you're looking for something special and you'll know it when you find it. One of the executives of Google talks about how he walked by for months and months and months and watched these arms picking up balls, putting them back, right? And it just didn't click. And then one day he walked in as it picked up a yellow ball, and he knew that was the thing that they were supposed to be looking for, was the yellow ball. Now nobody quite knows why it was that yellow ball, and that's the scary part. But it's the type of thing that those arms had picked up so many yellow balls and shared information between the two of them that they started to figure out there might be something special about this yellow ball. And one day on a Friday afternoon, he saw it pick up a yellow ball, put it back down, and then went about picking up other balls. He thought nothing of it until he came in on Monday, and every single robotic arm was only picking up yellow balls. Allow that to play out. The robots did not know exactly what they were supposed to do. The programmers knew, so they gave it a little hint. With sufficient mapping, with sufficient modeling, with sufficient feedback over time, not only did it figure out what it had to do, but over the weekend taught every other robot what to do properly. And from that point on, only yellow balls. Pretty wild stuff. And when we think about that, that's where we're at with technology, there's just no way we can think that business is not going to change, right? So this is a time for business transformation. It's a time for human transformation, right? And truly, this is where I get kind of up on my soapbox, that we also have to maybe begin to question, what do we really want out of business? And what I mean by that is more, what human value do we want to create? Because we are at a point where we can pretty much create anything pretty quickly. But if we're only creating it for cash flow and debt service coverage, like maybe we're off on that. Like maybe what we have here is not something we have to fear, but something we can champion that creates true human value and returns back to the humans, like things that we can spend more time on. Like, because one thing AI cannot do is look you in the eye and say, I'm thankful truly that you're here, because it doesn't know what gratitude is. It doesn't have human insight. It doesn't know all of that. But it does tasks really, really, really well. And let me ask you, how many of you just love doing the same tasks over and let me ask a better question. Anybody else have the same problem I have in that, we have 1,000 different task systems, but you're still using paper and you can never keep up with all your paper and there's just too many things to do. And you can't figure out why it is you can no longer use a calendar properly? Is it just me? Anybody? I can't tell you how many times I'm like, I can't believe I missed that meeting. I can't believe I did that. Like, wait a second, what happened? It's too much. We're on overload. We literally have created so many systems, it's not who we are. We're human to human. That's what we do really well, is human to human. And, a calendar, well, that's something we can do. But when we have 15 different calendars and 15 different places we have to check messages and 15 different places that all of those are going on, like managing that is not, that's not who we are. Anyways, roles of business transformation. Understanding customer needs, that's huge, right? Because AI can understand the psychology that we teach it. We can teach it about Jung and the shadow and Freud and the ego. We can teach it all about that so that it understands it. And it can start to approximate human understanding. It doesn't have human feelings, doesn't have human emotions, does not have a soul. The thing that makes each of us unique. The thing that, like, Buford is good for, right? It's good for your soul. But it can understand. It can take all of that knowledge, that human knowledge, and really focus it towards something. So it can help us understand customer needs, which means we can very hyper create customization, right? It can guide decision making. A lot of great ideas. A lot of, like, yesterday we talked about growing flowers in a greenhouse, and like I could do that, but if I decided that I'm going to start growing, I don't know, cactuses or something that won't live outside, like, I'm probably not making a pretty good business decision, right, if I'm going to try to sell those. But it can help guide decision making because it can look at analytics, it can look at trends, it can understand all of that and say, hey, that kind of makes some sense. I will tell you right now, it always seems like AI likes to agree with us, which I don't understand. And it can validate ideas. It can go out there and put the test, like, hey, this is our model, this is our general thinking, here's some information, here's some technology, some data that go around this, go test this, right? That's just kind of one of those things that we do. Implications for business models. Looks like I might be able to read. Okay, here we go. Automated customer support, easy. Driving information, which talk kind of about vast amounts of data they can do. Decision making, we sort of talked about that. And adopting large language models, and it starts to come like, how are we going to use those? That's the fun conversation. How am I going to use this, and what does it really become? Now, I personally think that we're all going to have our own AI that actually kind of talks with other AIs for us, and we get to sort of train it and tell it, this is how I want to live my life, and it will take care of all those, pesky calendar advice that I keep overlooking. Models and ethical consideration. Now, this is really interesting. Okay, ethics, we generally can't, like, morals and ethics are really a very human thing, right? And they change by culture and people. But it does need to be a part of every conversation when you're talking about what can we do, because we are unleashing incredibly powerful technology. And if it's sort of not aimed in the right direction, it could have pretty dire consequences, right? I mean, again, I'll go back to like some of the things that we're having to face as a society now, like just massive amounts of depression and anxiety that we did not have before, that you can drive right back to floods of dopamine and all of those other things that go on there. We wouldn't have thought about those. So there's opportunities and challenges. Opportunities are great. I want to get into talking about those. Challenges, they require significant resources to adopt and implement, and that's sort of true, right? It's like we can play a lot with AI right now, but to put that across corporate infrastructure, there's some more pieces that go to it. So this isn't going to be an overnight thing, although the technology would allow it. We really need to think about what that looks like to implement those. And this is really now where I want to just take this and go back to the conversation. So generally speaking, models, we get them, right? They're just ideas. And I'd like to kind of see if we can brainstorm an idea. I'm going to offer a good, like what I think is a great example of somebody that I'm working with over in Dallas, where we're currently living. And it's 180 relocation. You mentioned real estate earlier. The real estate industry, well, I'm going to say it's just one of those that's just ripe for disruption, right? I mean, it is, I don't know all the numbers, and you can certainly correct me where I'm wrong, but I'm just going to go ahead and create a model of what today's real estate industry looks like. When you buy or sell your house, you're going to pay 6%. Somebody's going to find the house that they want on Zillow, and they're going to contact somebody. Zillow is going to get 35% of that 6%, and that other 6% is going to be shared to about 40% with some other broker. Neither of those two things have anything at all to do with the house that you're looking at. You literally just paid somebody who has a license, which has value, has real value, and a marketing company, which also has value. Does it have 50 to 60% if we were doing a $500,000 house? That's $30,000. Are we saying that Zillow and that broker brought me $15,000 worth of value? No, not at all. Now, everybody likes to say, like, well, the real estate people need to make some money. Like, yes, they do. Over in Dallas, there are 10 real estate agents for every single house on the market. Most real estate people don't make money, right? It's unfortunate and true. So the model that she has is like, well, then let's make this consumer focused. Let's take the 6% that is currently being used, and let's figure every possible way that we can give that back to the person buying the house. I love this model. Love this idea, right? Rapidly changing, how would we use technology, and why would we do this? Well, as opposed to just finding a house that you want, what you do is you find somebody that you trust to actually help you make sure your house is good. And not only do you just go and get an inspection, but you take those commissions that are going to be earned and you put them toward making sure that the house is in the condition that the owner wants it to be in before they move in. I mean, we all know Chip and Joanna Gaines, right? House flipping before somebody moves in. We don't have to take it that far, but we certainly could be doing things like putting paint on the walls out of that $30,000 in commissions, right? And then what we're doing with that $30,000 commission is that we're actually saying, oh wait, we're helping spur the local economy because the painter is getting more jobs. We can bring the plumbers up to make sure it's totally good. And where this came out of a relocation is it was very personal to her. Her husband used to have to move around a lot. And every time they got a house, the first thing they had to do was put more money into the house so that the basic things were working the way that they wanted them done. So she's like, wait a second. What if we just kind of created an Angie's List of people, and then she takes it a step farther. I don't want it to be just an Angie's List. I want it to be a welcome wagon. I want it to be the neighbor welcoming your neighbor, and I want it to be business networking. So when you buy through our agency, your house will be mechanically sound, and we're going to look at budgets here. We're going to say what's available to this. You're going to say it's mechanically sound. What type of business are you doing? Who do you want to be connected to? It becomes the agent's job to actually make the business connections, to make the family connections, to make the church connections. It's literally the real estate. Now, it's not a single real estate person, right? It's the person who is overseeing that little local Angie's List. and using the money that would be coming from the commissions to pay these different people, and just keeping a small percentage of, for being a general contractor, we'll call it that. Love the model. Love the idea, right? Now, okay, you're in the industry. What do you think?
I think that's probably, I think we're all in for a lot of change. I think things are really gonna change very quickly. And I have no idea, that sounds like a reasonable model to me. That sounds like something that could work. It's a lot of money to pay all those commissions. We're actually on the financing side.
Okay.
We're working with different things now. We have like automated underwriting systems. There are other companies that are doing that. I mean, obviously it still goes through underwriting, but yeah, things to speed up the process because everybody wants everything done very quickly.
So if we were to take, and I don't know, maybe you do know, but all of the costs involved in buying a home, starting with the 6%, starting with the attorney, we're probably looking at somewhere between 8, and depending on the size of the house, 7 and maybe even 12. So let's say 8 to 10% of the most important, largest financial asset the vast majority of Americans will ever purchase. The moment they buy it, whoosh, like why?
So you're saying, to simplify it,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, if I don't fully understand the model, but you're removing Zillow from the equation to retain more of the percentage. So you're losing a marketing arm. So that will need to be some funds somewhere, or effort from somewhere will have to be reallocated to marketing.
Right.
To get people into the
And yes, right, and yes. How do you compete with a Zillow? Well, I'm gonna tell you, a lot of people in the real estate industry right now are really not happy by the fact, even as a realtor, right? I happen to have my license. I don't, it's inactive right now. But as a realtor, I go and get a listing. It goes out on Realtor. It goes out to Zillow. Nobody pays me for the work I did. And somebody else can find that work and say, okay, we're going to give that over here to Joe because the lead came through. Marketing is just marketing. Search engine optimization is just search engine optimization.
How many realtors are marketers?
Huh?
How many realtors are optimized in digital marketing?
More than you'd think, because they have to become that, because they had to compete with Zillow.
And I think that's across the board in every business, in every industry, and that's why some succeed and some don't.
And there you go right there, right? I mean, and this is kind of the point. So I just used that as one example, and I was hoping that like maybe what we could do, and the reason I use that example is because it's consumer focused, right? It is truly taking care of the customer in every way. That you have your, and as an agent, as a true legal agent, I'm supposed to have my client's best interest at heart. So imagine now if we started building business models that had our client's best interest at heart and not necessarily just Wall Street.
I think they would probably win in the end.
What's that?
I think that those companies would win in the end.
And
people.
And right now we have technology that clears the playing field, right? It's like we literally are at a time where we have some technology that allow us to change the way we've been doing business. And I'm going to say it was going to require a new mindset, a different mindset. And in my head, the easiest way that I always go is we're just going to go back before there was all the technology and make it about community. And when you make it about the community and you make it about your neighbors, your local small businesses, your local contractors are going to have, well, A, better profit margins, and they're not going to have to compete against all the large companies that are effectively run by Wall Street money. And their job is just to make sure there's always a certain return at the end of the day. And I'm not opposed to Wall Street. Like I said, I used to be licensed and all that. I get all of that. I just feel as though that like we've created an economy that doesn't necessarily take care of our neighbors as well as it could. And I think that we have an opportunity now with some technology that's being kind of put into our hands to kind of change those models. So I want to ask, who has an idea? Let's just brainstorm for the last 5 minutes. An idea. Okay.
I was just going to think, as a company who wants to give the most value to the consumer, so if you wanted to look through innovations through that lens instead of maximizing the bottom line. So, okay, if I were to brainstorm a huge list, just a rough first top view, I'm going to list every possible thing I can do to provide more value to my customer, and then filter that and say, and consider what AI can do. I think AI is going to decrease the amount of effort it will take to provide a lot of those valuable services. So now I can look through that list I brainstormed and say, hey, which ones are actually practical that I can do, and then I think, like I said, AI is going to reduce the amount of effort that it's going to take on my company to provide that value in a lot of situations.
And in no way undermine the professional experience that you bring to it, because the only thing AI is going to do is going to spit out some information for you to review and say, you know, this is good information, right? Because we still need to make sure it's accurate, and then more and more we can get involved. Right now, when we serve our clients, very often it's like we're giving them a service without the ability to spend enough time to truly understand their business. And in part because too many business owners just simply don't have the time to work on their business because they're so busy working in their business. And this technology just will free us up to say, okay, look, we've got all of this stuff in the past, like there's 1,000 people who can do exactly what I do, but if we can create space and room to breathe, that we can sit down and begin brainstorming what new models may look like, you know, we'll have some place to go. But yeah, I love that. Like, what can I do to serve?
And ultimately, that's the highest leverage use of the company's time as far as even increasing the bottom line. It's an indirect route. It's the counterintuitive. It's directly doesn't look transactional, but that is the way to provide the most value to the customers, and then so that's the byproduct. So it's the highest use, best use of the company's time is to think about that.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And that, right, so like effectively we're going to be building tools like the old content management business. We're just be building tools to offload the easy stuff so we can focus more on the more important stuff. But, okay, what are the thoughts? Okay, the few people it looks like I've lost. What are your thoughts so far? What are your thoughts?
Mine's more a question. How do we future-proof and upskill humanity for jobs of the future?
How do we future-proof and upskill humanity for future jobs?
Education like this.
Mm-hmm. First off, sort of take away the word proof, right? Because I mean, because it's prepare, right? Because I don't think we're able to prove much of anything. We're only able to walk it out at this point. And I think the most important way to upskill is working on mindsets, is really getting us to stop thinking about all the fear. And there's a lot of fear, just not even AI, just in today's marketplace, like who's going to get laid off today, right? And how they get, I mean, more than half the people still paycheck to paycheck. Like that's America right now. We're not that far away from some real problems, right? But a healthy mindset is like, okay, when the trials and the storms come, we'll endure, we'll get through it stronger, right? I think that one of the things that we have to do to upskill our future workforce and the generations for the future is to help them have a healthier understanding of their own self-worth. Yeah, I think that would be the best upskill we could do.
I also have come across a lot of free resources. Like Google has a free resource for people who are interested in learning more about the large language models and the generative AI. I mean, it's completely free. It's a little bit, up there as far as but it's not too bad. But regarding your question, I really think that it's just learning as much as you can about this, because it's so new. There's so many resources out there because it's so new that just jump in and learn it.
And
It's
to
really-
that point, I am fairly convinced we will all have our own AIs. And it will be our AIs that talk to each other's AIs, and based on the values that it determines that we share will create the pathways to the human connection. So learning these tools that we have today will just put you light years ahead in 3 years.
There's actually an AI out there, personal, it's called personal.ai, that it's just exactly that you can put your own information in there and it starts to learn you, you start interacting with other things, and then it's exactly that, but at a very, very beginner level. So I'm sure at some point, if it becomes, something useful, it's gonna be kind of costly. I'm thinking to have your own very personal AI that's gonna be your own assistant that knows you, that's gonna be, I think it's gonna cost.
I think the costs, I think the costs are gonna go way down, and once we actually secure it back to blockchain, where we're gonna have our own very private thing, it's like, now it gets personal, right? And it gets really, really interesting, because we're gonna start finding the true human value connection, in large part by the language that we speak. No, did you have some thoughts?
I'm just taking it all in.
Okay, that's fine, I was just.
I feel like we need a business model on this, so that people don't get laid off from implementing AI, so I don't know if that makes sense.
Go ahead.
To the model that question's posed in is, okay, to take away the exact words AI, it's 2023. It's just the framework of introduction of new technology into modern society, and it's going to disrupt industries. So if you think about the vehicle, the car, the invention of the car disrupted companies and jobs who made horse and carriage. And ultimately, it was better for humanity as a whole in the grand scale, in the long term, in the long run. So it's just an inevitable nature of human existence on planet Earth throughout time. And rather than the mindset of trying to oppose it, be fearful, reroute that effort, energy, mindset into, on a personal level, how can I navigate the waters, come out on top? As a society level, how can we navigate the waters and come out on top? And that's just a strictly objective perspective. And in Darwin, survival of the fittest, it just is what it is. And the fact that we're in the room today is I think, a reflection of, high level intelligence of recognizing trends. And
So I see Jess back there saying, okay, it's time. So,
Well, we're right at 1 o'clock, so we're gonna have to cut it off for the live feed, but you're welcome to stay and continue asking questions as long as Chuck has time available. But we don't have any questions in the live feed right now, so we'll
all right,
stop. But
cool.
You're